Every week, I talk to a business owner who's spent somewhere between 10,000 to 50,000 on AI implementation, right? Custom automations, chatbots, workflow tools, right? Consultants who promise transformation, and yet every week the story ends the same way. It didn't work, and we're back to doing things manually. I'm talking $50,000 gone. And so what was the worst part? I'll tell you exactly why the whole scheme failed before it even got started. It's a pattern that's so predictable. It's almost boring, but the step one is you have a business owner that sees a demo. It's incredible, right? AI can write emails and automate everything, generate proposals, and handle your customer service, almost like magic, right? So step two, they'll hire someone, an agency, a consultant, a freelancer of some sort to build this out for their business, right? A budget, in the 5-figure range, in a 4 to 8 week timeline. Then the build happens, right? It looks good as they're staging it up, still having good demonstrations and everyone's excited. But then it goes live, right? And within 2 weeks, cracks appear. The outputs are inconsistent, right? The edge cases that the automation can't handle start to pile up, and someone basically has to babysit the AI. So the team starts going around the automation because it's faster to just do it manually, right? And the tool ends up getting abandoned. The subscription keeps running because nobody remembers to cancel it, but the business is basically back to square one minus all that they've spent and gaining a healthy skepticism about AI. This exact sequence has played out dozens of times, if not hundreds or thousands. And the root cause is often the same. See, they automated a process that didn't actually exist. Not that it, didn't exist in the sense that it wasn't happening. The work was getting done, right? Say clients are getting onboarded, right? Emails were being sent and the proposals were being written, but none of it was a real documented process, right? None of it was standardized, and none of it had the failure modes predefined so that the AI might be aware of them. So the human doing the work was making 50 micro decisions at every step, right? Decisions that were based on their experience, their context, their intuition, things that they may not have even realized that they were deciding, right? But then they handed that to AI and said, do this. But that AI doesn't have the 50 micro decisions worth of context. It just has whatever limited instructions it was given, which were incomplete because that process was never fully articulated anywhere verbally at all. And so that's the $50,000 mistake, paying someone to automate something that you haven't documented. Let's make this a bit more concrete, right? If you put $50,000 on an AI build that fails, the total loss plus opportunity cost of 2 to 3 months, right? And $0 spent documenting your process first, right? If you had taken that time to do that documentation, maybe a $5,000 automation would have done what you needed it to. And so maybe the documentation takes a week to get right, maybe 2 if you have a complex and large organization, right? But using the methods that I teach on this channel, your documentation process could probably boil down to 10 hours. And the Pareto principle might help you get there in about 10 minutes of work, right? And that's the difference between a $50,000 failure and a $5,000 success. See, almost nobody does it, right? Because the documentation is boring, right? Because, shiny object syndrome, right? The consultant said, oh, they'll figure out the process along the way. No, you figure out the process before the build, and then you empower the consultant even further. And so before you spend $1 on AI implementation, answer just a few short questions. 1, can you write down step by step exactly how the tasks are done that you'd like to automate? right? Not vaguely, but actually step by step, with the decision points, with the rare edge cases that you know of. If you can't write it down, then it's not ready to automate. Full stop. Next, ask, is the task really consistent? Does it happen the same way every time, or does it kind of depend? Usually the answer is it depends, but that means that there are conditional branches that are worth mapping. Make sure you map those before you go to automation. What happens when this thing breaks down, right? Not if, but when. What is that most common failure mode? What does someone need to know to do when something doesn't go as planned? And if you can't answer that, then the automation will break and nobody will know what to do. So if you're going to answer these three questions clearly, then you're ready to automate. But if you can't, then you're not. And no amount of money will change that, right? I need to address the other side of this, right? AI consultants and agencies. Most implementation agencies are tool first. They know the tools. They're great at building automations, connecting APIs, and setting up workflows. They're technical. They're skilled. But they're not process consultants. They don't show up and say, before we build anything, let's document your processes and find the waste. That's usually not their business model, right? Their business model is quick builds. So they build, right, on top of poorly documented or completely undocumented processes with incomplete requirements. And when it doesn't work, it's not because they're bad at their job, it's because the foundation wasn't there. So if you're going to hire an AI consultant, do the documentation first, hand them documented processes, hand them defined failure modes, and hand them clear success criteria. Now they can build something that works. But without that, you'd just be paying them to guess. So here's what I do with $50,000 if I were a service provider wanting to implement AI. Take a few days, maybe a week or two, to document maybe 5 core processes. And I'm not talking about all day, every day, massive events or summits, just really 10 hours of work. The cost would be basically nothing. Then you run those processes through a waste filter. Try to cut what you think might be unnecessary. Then set quality standards, right? With pre-delivery checklists. Make sure that you have consistent inputs and outputs. Start a memory system, right? Log your client interactions, your learnings from your projects, and your decision rationale. At that point, you'll have a foundation, right? After a little bit of that unglamorous work done for free, you'll be able to then identify the single highest leverage automation opportunity. The one repeatable task that takes the most time that you can fully automate after having documented it with its failure modes. And so build that one automation, test it, fix the edge cases, and get it running reliably with the help of an AI consultant if needed. That might cost $2,000 or $5,000, maybe even less if you can build it yourself with off-the-shelf tools. And so after a few days or weeks, you'll have a working automation with a solid foundation, and you've kept that $45,000 in your pocket that your competitor has thrown down the drain due to poor processes. That's how you implement AI without just lighting money on fire. I have a scorecard that is free, takes 5 minutes, that can tell you whether you have a business foundation that can support AI or whether you're about to become the next $50,000 cautionary tale. The link is in the description. And so if you want to build that foundation fast with SOP templates, a process mapping method, again, the diagnostic that I shared with you, you can grab all of that